on
Yep.
Tuesday, May 31.
Did you make the motion?
I just did.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So go first. Welcome the new water commissioner, Chris Pratt, to the group.
It's great to have you
Thank
on
you.
board, Chris.
It's official
very
now.
much. Yes, it is.
You guys want to make it official by doing the reorganization and stating it? I have the form filled out that has to go to town hall and be distributed.
Sure. So we can, so myself and Lee, we're, oh, wait, I have to make Lee a vice. I'm gonna make a motion for Lee Jenkins to become vice chair of the water commission.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to have Stephen Girardi as chairman of the Cohasset Water Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion to have Chris Pratt as clerk as the Cohasset Water Commission.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got it.
It's official now. All right, so we'll start with the Verizon lease extension. So where we are on the lease agreement with them.
Well, the question is, has all the work been completed that was discussed at that last meeting that was supposed to be done? The physical work around the water towers?
So you're referring to the comment from Brian
Mhm.
Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but do we know, Brenda, has anyone been up there and inspected the gate area?
I'm just letting Brian Joyce in the meeting right now. I did get a call from somebody morning. I did get a call last week from somebody wanting to know if the extension had been approved or not approved, or he wanted to spearhead it, and I gave him the name of the people that were at the last meeting, or the person that was at the last meeting, and told him to talk to him directly. Because it was already in discussion with the board. And I haven't heard anything back yet.
This was someone from Verizon?
Correct.
Yep.
So is there some overlap? Or are there two people from Verizon trying to spearhead this?
Yeah, I think somebody had started it, whoever we spoke to that came to our last meeting.
Mr. Tibnan, I think his
Yeah.
name was.
Yeah, and the other gentleman that reached out to me was unaware of him. So they work for the same company. I sent him his email and I left it at that.
All right, so we'll make this a to be continue topic for next meeting.
Well, I don't know, but we have to have some type of word on what's been happening physically, if they were getting rid of the weeds and everything else that we had discussed. Fred, do you know anything about that? About the site work?
I do not.
I know they were putting up new antennas.
Yeah, that was kind of Jason's oversight as far as I'm aware of. We don't-
So in the past month, I think there's some confusion. So Verizon is looking, right now you had AT&T and Verizon up there with two separate sites. T-Mobile is adding a third site. I met
Mhm.
with them, with Jonathan, probably 2 months ago on the development of their third site, which is a new building, new generator. Again, like a third standalone. They're putting up antennas. Verizon was looking to do, I think, some upgrades and renew their lease. And there was an email chain saying, you really need to take care of your site if you want to entertain a new lease. And that includes, maintenance of your generator, making sure there's fuel. There was an incident where we ran out of fuel, or they ran out of fuel and the cell service went down. And also some of the shielding that's up on the tank had fallen off. So it's just general lack of maintenance on their part. And we wanted to make sure that that was codified in a new lease if we were going to do another long-term lease with them. At least that was my recommendation. And I think you probably had a discussion with them subsequent to the email chain.
Yeah, I mean, it is in the original agreement that they are, one of their obligations is to maintain and repair the premises and any surrounding areas used solely by the lessee. So I think we need to get on a call or a meeting with the appropriate Verizon rep and reiterate that's our expectation. It's in the agreement. The amendment really doesn't have anything new. It's just stating that it's extending the lease. And it outlines what they want to do. So they're replacing, I think, 6 antennas, and they're running some new cable. They're replacing some cable. So there's really not much to the lease amendment. It's really in the agreement. It's just continuing all of the parameters of the original agreement. But we do have some time. But it's just a matter of if we want to continue to kick this down the road. I think Verizon probably wants to close the loop on it, and we might as well close the loop on it as well. So Steve or Lee, is there any discussion on the lease amendment?
Not at all on that, but as we had just discussed, it's the maintenance that's going on. Does Brendan go down and periodically check to see if they're doing any work? As he's out there checking the site daily?
That would be Jonathan.
Jonathan, do you know if,
We don't typically
Brendan?
oversee something like that. I'm not aware that we would be doing that other than maybe the activity itself, but usually a third parties engaged in your best interest to review the engineer or the plans for whatever they plan to install or remove. It really should go through a formal engineering review. Maybe it is, I'm unaware, where as it relates to wind loads, the type of equipment, the types of, if there's any penetrations or any issues with the coatings that need to be addressed. I have to, ask Brian. I'm unaware. So typically that's what I'm used to. I don't know if we actually historically have been watching, Woodard and Curran employees have been watching these vendors do that, or Verizon. I would have to rely on Brenda or Jonathan.
Yeah, so two things. So sorry I'm late. Tony Amonabo and I from Tetra Tech were just in the wrong meeting. We were hanging out in a Teams call and I realized that this was a Zoom call. But also I'm in the middle of phone tag with the Bourne landfill about sludge removal. So I'm just going to return that call real quick so that I can provide you guys with some information. So you don't mind using me.
Yeah, so I guess if I could chime in just on the lease, I think obviously Verizon, it's a good service for the town. It's a good revenue source for the water department. So I don't think there's any question on continuing. I think it's just a matter of getting Verizon to the table, just to lay out the parameters of what we expect going forward and maybe have them provide a quarterly report to the, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe a quarterly report to the commission on maintenance visits and any things that are going on with the site. Because when I was up there with T-Mobile, there were 3-inch diameter weed trees growing out of the air conditioning in the back of the building. So clearly it hadn't been visited in a long time. And Glenn, who I see on here, probably for a different reason, but he knows a little bit better of the details of, they lost fuel and, their generator hasn't been serviced the way it should have been.
Yeah, just to fill in, Brian, the last windstorm we had, or actually the last two storms we had over the last 5 years, we found out that the AT&T generator, which is the one that powers our radios, repeaters, had not had fuel tank filled. And then the last storm, neither Verizon or AT&T's fuel tanks were filled. So it was pretty frustrating. But at emergency management, we do have a direct dial number to the operations manager for this region. maybe it would be good to find out that person's name for Verizon too, if they'll give it up.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
well, my problem though is we're listening to maintenance issues of, they're not maintaining this or that. Jason apparently never visited the site to discuss these maintenance issues with any of the contractors. And it looks like Woodard and Curran, they don't take a look and see the weeds or anything else. So we have to determine whose responsibility it is going forward. Because we did have that Jason being paid 70%, I thought, to be maintaining some of these sites.
so I would just say that, you are leasing this space to them and the requirements of maintenance and upkeep is on them. And I think putting back on them a quarterly report or some other periodic report where they're required to say, yes, I visited the site on such and such a date. This is what we've done for maintenance. And, even if it's just a quick email, it's something that the board has to go back on. And maybe that's just an addition to the lease or just a requirement. Right now, you have the leverage in not signing the lease. And when you do, then that's gone.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
but even so, if they give us a quarterly report, they could say, oh yeah, we had Joe Blow go up there and he did blah, blah, blah. But we do not have anybody from our side saying, yeah, when I was up there, I saw that this was taken care of. I'm not saying to, keep a big check on it, but I think we should have someone from our side saying, everything's looking good when I was up there. It's not that the weeds are coming out 10 feet high or whatever.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
we have to
So
determine who's going to be doing this.
Brendan can't do that once a month? I mean, is that not within his?
Brendan has been up there and he has reported, he did report when he started seeing the weeds and tree limbs and whatnot growing out of their trailer or whatever it is. He did report that. He is up there a lot. We're opening the gate almost daily at this point for different contractors going up there to work.
So I suggest we continue that and Brendan can be the eyes and ears because he's up there regularly. So
All right,
I suggest we continue that and then we should get the guy from Verizon back on the line and tell him that, that is one of our requirements in order for this lease amendment to be signed. That there needs to be regular documented maintenance of their
Right,
area
and,
as per the agreement.
don't we still have to visit both tanks daily according to Homeland Security, or is that not been enforced anymore? Because I thought we had to have a visual every day with the tanks.
No, I'm not familiar with that being enforced for sure, but it'd be easy enough. I mean, we are up there every other day at least.
No, but I thought it was a requirement of the federal government under Homeland Security after 9/11 to have visuals.
That could be, but I'm not familiar with that. It's very
Well,
likely.
somebody better check on that and report back. Because that would be perfect, if our guys are up there and just saying, hey, we saw signs of Verizon here doing maintenance or AT&T or T-Mobile. So we'll just have a record of it. We're not asking Woodard and Curran to be the enforcer, but just since you're up there to let us know. Fred, do you have a problem with that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think that's a recommendation you're referring to as far as Homeland Security. But yeah, we're up there enough. We can certainly keep eyes on it.
Mhm. But I was wondering, who did Brendan report the issue to when he reported it, Brendan? Do you know?
I do not.
Okay.
So, so we'll try to get the rep back for our next meeting. That was on the previous call. See where they stand. Put that down as a note.
Got it.
All right. Any more discussion on this?
I
On
think
my
the lease, does that lease amendment need to go anybody need to go to legal or anything like that before it's signed? They drafted it, they sent it to us for review. It's really doesn't reference anything in terms of a change to the original agreement. The price is the price with a 3% escalator. So what would be the next step on a lease amendment? What's the next step in a process if we approve the language and approve the parameters? Does it need to get reviewed by someone else?
Brian, what do you
I
think?
think, so that's a good idea, Chris. I can run it by our new town council, KP Law. I don't know if you guys have a rep from KP Law you've used for anything in the recent history, but we can have them do a review and give any recommendations.
So Brenda can send over the lease agreement to you and you can forward to them.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. So I'll send it to Carolyn Murray, who's kind of our liaison to KP Law. You know what, I'll send you her contact info, and if you just want to send it to her and copy me and whoever else.
Weren't we supposed to get a new copy of the extension?
From Verizon?
Yes,
I'm not aware.
I thought at the last meeting he was gonna put something together so you guys could review it. Maybe I'm wrong. I never got anything.
Well, I have a copy of the second amendment.
Yeah, I've got all that, but,
Well, so what's he changing?
oh, the Second Amendment, you mean the one that we're talking about doing now?
Correct. There's
I
been
don't
a
know.
draft second amendment going around.
Oh, okay. Maybe I missed it.
So that's the amendment of the original contract. So that can be reviewed by legal. It's essentially a contract extension. That's all really it is.
Correct.
Now, I thought that it was supposed to have gone through legal already, because after Chris didn't come to our meeting, I talked to him and I presumed it was going through legal. Is Chris joining us at this meeting, Brian?
I can check. I don't believe so.
Okay.
But I would say, you know, if there are any amendments or revisions, it sounds like there has been in recent weeks, months, let's send it to, I'm starting an email right now. I'll include you, Brenda, you can copy, reply with the lease to Carolyn Murray.
Yeah, because it looked like it started back in the fall with Jason. So I was presuming that Jason was going through proper procedure and protocol to make sure everything was legally in place. But if that wasn't his job, I don't know.
I'm sure he was. I will presume the same, but you know, I'm redotting I's and crossing T's, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be nice if we had that information, but
Would be nice.
Okay.
Just quickly, if anybody from Tetra Tech can contact Tony. I've been trying to bring him into this meeting and it's not allowing me. So if he could go out and come back in, if you could let him know to do that. Sorry, go ahead.
If I may, Brian, since we're somewhat on the topic, can you give us any update for T-Mobile? Is there anything to report there?
I'll swing by there later today. They had done the tree clearing and just the general concept. So Verizon and AT&T have their own standalone buildings with their own standalone generators and standalone propane tank for fuel. The new T-Mobile site will be a standalone structure. It will have a generator that has its own diesel day tank, and just diesel day tanks. I think it's more readily available, and it's kind of the best practice going forward. So that's it. I'll have another update on their progress next meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, I will add, they did do a, you know, as part of their work, they do a pre-tank inspection, and then they'll provide a post-tank inspection to make sure that none of that work has impacted the structure. That's typical.
Okay. Will Verizon have to be required to do that when they swap out antennas?
No, it's generally required when you do new welding and mounting to the tank.
Okay.
Verizon, if they're using the same stands and mounts that they have, there's no welding to the tank or new fixtures.
Okay.
Oh, and Chris, typically, any work that's done on the tank that's going to be changing with antennas has always gone through the fire department because they have their equipment up there too with the tri-town 911 and everything. So they
Okay.
typically look at it also.
Okay.
And I don't know, Glenn, do you look at it when they're doing that?
You're muted, Glenn.
We rely on the regulatory agencies to do that for us.
Okay. Because I know Chief Sylvia was always very involved in everything.
Right, we have police and fire repeaters and also municipal radio antennas on that tank, so we just want to make certain that nothing gets in the radio range of our antennas, so that's what we always look for.
Mhm.
Anything else on Verizon? We try to move on to the next one. Chris, you go with the Verizon?
I'm good. Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Lee, you
I'm
good?
with that.
Good.
All right, so next, we go, oh, Glenn, right here, the Historical Society, in Elm Street and the museum in Church Street.
Yes, thank you, Steve. So the Historical Society is a nonprofit. It's been operating in town since 1928. We have 4 buildings. 2 of them are connected to your water system. And we've never received a bill and we don't use any water. You'll notice if you check the record, we hardly ever have a quarter where we use 100 cubic feet. So the bill, if there was one, would be $5. But now what's happened is the last quarter came in with a water-based charge of $175 for our Beechwood Meeting House and for our Wilson House on Elm Street in Cohasset. So basically, what's changed for some reason, without any discussion that we can remember, is now we charge $700 a year to be connected to your distribution system. We don't buy any product. So we would be hoping that you could waive these fees going forward, as they apparently were in the past. Because $1,400 is a big hit for a nonprofit. So that would be our request.
Okay, now, you're using water over at the old library, right?
Yes, at the old library, we pay water and sewer plus our quarterly fee, which of course we have no problem with because we're an active live customer there. We have apartments, we have sewerage, we have everything. So we're not concerned about that bill. We think that's fair enough. But these other buildings which have no usage but are connected, it's a tough charge for us to take.
So Brenda, did something change with the billing or do you know what that was all about?
Yeah, what happened was when we did the rate structure change, actually, Glenn, you've been charged for the last 4 quarters, that flat fee. I'm just looking at the Historical Society on Elm Street right now. So what happened when the new rate structure came into play, what used to be coded as what we called free, the usage would be recorded, but there was no charge. So when it came to our accounting for the state reporting, that usage would be there, but the other fee was just waived from it. But that got dropped when the rate increase came into play. So as for Beechwood, I mean, yeah, Church Street, hold on. Probably the same thing. So there is still a coding in there that is, if it's not valid, I can make it valid again. I mean, the Historical Society on Elm Street, I'd say in the last 10 years has used 500 cubic feet. And the church, what used formerly Beechwood Church, has always been charged, but now there's been like no use since it's become a museum.
So is there a way to make that billing code live again?
Yes, oh yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, Chris, I can make it happen.
Okay.
Now, was this because when Don and Jason took over the rate study and they changed it a bit? Is that how it came in?
I think what probably happened is because there was such a big change in the rate structure, I had sent to my programmer to assist me in updating everything, that when that wasn't on the list, that's because we have such a convoluted rate structure. When he didn't see anything for that, it just got dropped out and recoded.
So both buildings where it didn't have that, the flat fee.
No, the church always did in Beechwood on Church Street. But
Okay.
one
We
on
just-
Elm Street never did.
Well, the church, we bought the church a couple of years ago, so maybe when it was a church, it was on there, but we never probably talked to you about it after we bought it.
Right.
So it sounds like it's a matter of reactivating that code in the billing software and applying that to these particular buildings. And voiding and zeroing out the bills that did run. And then any future billing would follow the same historical pattern of not charging those two facilities.
So if you guys vote on it, I can do 2 abatements for the last quarterly charges, which is all that's due, and I can recode it so that they're not charged that fee.
So the Elm Street buildings are considered one connection?
There's only a connection into 4, not into 6.
So if we make a motion to be the Historical Society in the museum,
Yes,
At those 2 particular locations.
okay. So I'll make a motion to remove the flat fee and remove the flat fee from the society, Historical Society on Elm Street and the museum to go back to its original billing.
Uh,
I said that wrong, didn't I?
Yeah, no, because I think we want to do the Elm Street as originally had been done prior and put the church on the exclusion. Is that correct, Len?
that's it.
All right, so I'll make a motion to remove the flat fee from Elm Street and put the museum back on its original fee. Non-flat fee. Will you make the motion for me?
Okay.
Sorry.
We want to make a motion that Elm Street will be returned to its exclusion prior to the rate study. And the Beechwood Meeting House and Museum will revert to the same exclusion since it is now under the auspices of the Historical Society and no longer an active church since it was purchased.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Glenn, I have a question about the, you want to put a suppression system in the building?
Well, I'm not sure exactly where the new water main is going to be. That you got in the town meeting article that just went by. But if it does go by the church building, we would like to just put a valve there so we could tie into it without having to go out into the street and, you know, dig up the whole street and repair it and wait for the moratorium and stuff like that. We did that down at the main building on South Main Street a number of years ago. The valve has been there for fire suppression, and we've never connected into it yet, but it's brought off the street onto our property. So we just think it would be the time to do that would be now, if in fact you're going that far up the main.
So the last appropriation was for Beechwood at, from the dam basically to King Street. Not for Church Street.
Yeah, so I didn't know. I was unclear where it went because both of those streets were listed on the motion. So if it was going by, I just wanted to get a request in. If it's not, then it's not. That's easy.
I have a question. Why would you need it? You already have a service there. Couldn't you just hook the fire suppression up to the service that's there?
No,
No, the service would likely be a 6-inch main probably coming in.
Oh, okay.
All right, anything else on the,
No, so
Some
we'll
stuff.
just, yes, we'll just have to wait until it's going by to do that then. And you have to
Yeah,
remember
it's
to
just,
find it.
yeah, it's just forward thinking, looking ahead. If it
Yep.
goes by, great. If not, I think. But anyway, thank you very much for the change in the other two museum connections. Appreciate it.
you're welcome, Glenn. Good seeing you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good one, Dave.
All right, so next item would be financials with Dawn.
John doesn't work on Tuesdays. He only works on Wednesdays now.
He's not
Okay.
here again?
He doesn't work for the
But-
town. He's only at the town one day a week now.
Is there anyone taking his place?
Have not heard that.
So, I mean, we're paying for this service and this is gonna be the 5th month not getting it. And not getting any information.
I don't
Okay.
Lately, sorry.
Uh,
I just quickly looked at the budget. I mean, I really skimmed through it. You folks see anything that stick out, Chris or Lee?
well, I mean, we still have to figure out about the refunds we're getting in indirect cost. I have us up to about $25,000 due to Jason leaving, which is about 21,838, plus there was the 1,279 from the health insurance for the retiree who is no longer with us. And then there's the replacement for Jane Henderson, the change in that salary. And we had the question of, are we able to use this money? How is it being refunded? It's a credit. Is it credit against next year? Next year, we have to change the budget again because we do not have that position anymore. And, you know, these are just financial questions that we should be getting answers to eventually, because if we have an extra 25,000 we can use before the end of the year, I'm sure Brenda can find a place to use it.
Right.
Right, Brenda?
Sure.
So Lee in the intern, so would that sound like something like that we would have to talk to Chris about, correct?
Yeah, I guess we have to talk to him about something. This is the first I heard that Jonathan, that Don only works on Wednesdays. Maybe we should
So-
have our next meeting on a Wednesday for June.
Yeah, I mean, I
Instead
think
of a
we should,
Tuesday.
I think we should compile our list of questions or open issues that need to be addressed to the finance department. Clearly, there's gonna be a period of turmoil and, or transition, I should say. So it would be nice to have an update as to what's going on.
I know, well, I discussed this with Chris when I had the meeting after our last meeting with him when he didn't show up. And this is just a lack of communication. This is really unconscionable in my perspective.
So historically, what has been provided to the board by way of financial reports on a regular basis?
You got the financial update for the end of April, I presume. You were on that list. And though all the financial reports, that's it, and any questions we have. But as I said, we have new questions now because of employee changes that we have been billed through indirect costs. And when Don came on board, he insisted that the indirect cost be immediately taken out of our budget as of July 1st, when we traditionally had to take it out January at least. And this is just as I said, a matter of approximately $25,000 that are sitting in indirect costs that do not belong there because it does not refer to any active employee.
I don't think I got those April financial reports, but who
I
typically
thought you were
sends
on
them
the
out?
list for that.
Who typically sends them out?
Dawn
Uh,
sends them to me and I send them out, Chris, but I'll resend it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, but the other thing too is now, you sent us a report at the same time that Don's came out. And it was showing that we had a
I have
balance
them.
of
I have them,
$76,000 remaining.
Say that again, Lee?
The report that you sent out around the same time, your expenditure budget,
Yes,
it showed us about 76,000 remaining.
yep.
Has that changed?
Yeah, I sent a new one out this morning.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
Let's see.
Sent. Oh, wait a minute, I got it right here.
59,789.
Thank you, that's about right.
Yep.
Okay,
About right.
So the indirect cost comes out July 1st, right, Lee?
well, that's what Don decided. I think it's up to us to decide when it should come out. But it's also this, what he called a credit. We had the credit of 1279. If you looked on the financial statement that he sent out, it wasn't listed as a credit, but it did show, which paper is it on here? Hold on a minute. It's on one of the reports here. And it just shows that we had 1,279 available under indirect costs, but that did not include the replacement for Jane Henderson, and it did not include the last 3 months of Jason's salary, because don't forget, we were paying him 70% of his cost of 124,786, which came out to 87,351. And if we take the last quarter of the year that he has not been with us, it's 21,838. So, are we able to spend this money in case something comes up in the next couple weeks?
So
I'm
I
sure-
would just suggest, I think it would be helpful, Lee, if you put all those figures of your accounting on those indirect costs in an email to Dawn, Chris, include me and whoever else on the chain.
Okay,
We're obviously in a state of transition. My time's not billed to you guys, not that I don't want to get into those nickel and dimes, but
okay, but wait a second. We are paying for some of your time in indirect costs.
I know, but
Yes,
since
I know.
Jason has left, not for the amount that I've increased my time. But, and just, hour for hour, my time's more valuable than Jason's for the town. So in indirect costs, and I don't think it's, I don't want to spend hours debating over what in the grand scheme is small potatoes. But I think it would be helpful if you put that accounting into an email
Mhm.
and then we could review it. And if there is credits, that makes sense. We can do credits. If there's not, then go that way. But July 1st, I would, and I don't know the financial scheme, but I would guess it's tied to the fiscal year. So maybe there's a reason for that July 1st payment.
Well, when you take a look at our billing, we do not bill for hydrants until January. And that's in our budget. The indirect costs are in our budget, and it was just Don in the last 2 years that insisted that we do it July 1st instead of, as we had been historically doing it, January 1st.
So
So,
Lee,
this was something that we never voted on. It was a mandate that came down from Don.
so Lee, can you draft that email and
Sure.
send it with your figures to all, obviously all of us,
Absolutely,
Chris, Brian.
positively.
Yeah, and I just say, and I don't want to get into the wormhole, but Jane Henderson is still working here as a transition, training the new person. So we have 2 staff. So it's obviously to get down to the penny on this indirect costs with the transition that's going on, it's going to be difficult. And
Yeah, and I would suggest we don't muddy the waters. I think, filling the position and getting some stability there and utilizing the 8 hours a week the town has done probably are more important, and we can bring these up when the time is right. That would be my suggestion, but we can get them in writing and have them circulated, but I'm not so sure it makes sense to press anything and muddy the conversation at this point.
Okay, well, I mean, this has been 2 months now that I've been trying to get an answer on this, and Don's been unavailable. But that's okay. I'm just looking out for our bottom line to see if something comes up before the end of June that we could possibly use an extra 20,000 and not go into the red and stay in the black.
Yep, no, I agree, Lee.
That's my
Ye-
whole contention on this, because we seem like we're really tight right now.
No, Lee, I agree. Just, yeah, if you can get the figure that you're looking for, and it's due, because obviously there's a vacancy. Yeah, we should ask before it comes out July 1st.
Yeah, because in case we have another break or something, or if something comes up on Sawyer Street before the end of the year that they need to have done for the repaving in conjunction with the sidewalk or something, I think we just need a little cash.
Yep, and it's ratepayer money too, so.
Yeah.
And that's our job, to look out for the ratepayer money.
So, all right, anything else on this? Well, I got you down, Lee, to write the email to the town,
Yep.
the
don't for-
indirect cost.
Can I make a suggestion that we move up our agenda a little bit, because Tetra Tech is here instead of
Ye-
having them?
Yep, I was gonna
Wait.
throw up the GAC next.
Okay,
All right, so let's do a GAC update with the Tetra Tech folks. Good morning, folks.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us on the call this morning. So what we'd like to do is give you an update as to where we are in the design process, kind of go over some of the recent milestones that we've achieved on the design project, give you a brief presentation of the highlights from the design report, and then open it up for any questions that you might have for us. So what I'd like to do is just introduce Amanda Taylor, who will walk through a brief presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions. And please feel free to ask questions during Amanda's slides as well. Thank you.
So I'd like to share a screen deck if I can, Brenda. I don't know, it says that that's disabled for participants. Is that possible to?
Just made you a co-host.
Great. Great. Can you all see my screen?
not yet.
Nope.
It's getting there. It's a pretty big file, so it might take a minute or two. Still not showing up yet.
Okay, well, I'll just do a quick background on what the presentation is going to be while it's loading. We were tasked to do a 25% design for the Lily Pond Water Treatment Plant GAC improvements and the sodium hypochlorite upgrade. And we turned in our design report for that effort at the beginning of this month to the town. And so this is just a brief presentation to kind of update you on what was in that report. It's a condensed version of a presentation we gave to some members of the town last week. And it also includes, our updated estimate of construction costs and design schedule. So to go into final design. Is it up now?
No, it still hasn't come up yet.
Maybe I'll try again.
Why weren't the water commissioners informed about this meeting?
Well, it was a technical meeting, but I'll.
Okay. So it's basically just Brian?
It was Brian and
Yeah, so Jonathan and I were in the meeting last
Okay.
week, design review.
There you go, Amanda.
Great. Maybe I didn't fully share it last time. All right.
Can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Awesome. So we'll just, a quick agenda, we'll just take you on through the project background reminder. We'll go through the 25% design scope of work, and then we'll review high level what was in the memo, including the recommended facilities, the site layout, the structural evaluation for the hypo room changes, and as well as the new GAC building, the treatment processes, the electrical and INC preliminary design, project cost estimate, and then we'll go through the updated project schedule. We'll try to keep this, you know, pretty brief so that we can get into any questions you have. Just as a quick reminder, the project is to take the existing Lily Pond water treatment plant, which is a filtration plant for a surface water supply, and add to the end of the filtration process a GAC process for the removal of TOC. This process will include a booster pump station to get through the GAC process, which will include 3 parallel trains or vessels with room for 1 future, as well as replacement of an existing chlorine gas facility with sodium hypochlorite, which is a safer chemical. The scope of work that we were asked to do for this effort was some field services, a topographical survey, and a geotechnical investigation, and then to prepare a basis of design or a 25% level design, which included a site visit, a structural evaluation of the existing chlorine gas rooms, which were being converted for sodium hypochlorite, to establish a conceptual opinion of probable construction costs, and then to conduct a 25% design workshop with the town, use Google Earth to prepare site civil conceptual drawings of the proposed GAC building, and prepare the basis of design report. So the last task is the task we've finished most recently, and this is the summary of that kind of the combined effort. The recommended facilities are 3 equally sized GAC vessels with space for 1 future vessel operating in parallel. The GAC vessels will be located in a pre-engineered metal building with heating and installation, and it will also have a transfer wet well outside of the building with 2 transfer pumps to pump water from the on-site filters to the GAC vessels, as well as new sodium hypochlorite storage and feed facilities, including a bulk tank, metering skids in the existing chlorine gas rooms. Here's the site layout prepared as part of the memo. We considered a quad layout next to the existing garage over here, as well as a linear layout. Both of those layouts were presented during the design workshop last month, and the linear layout was the preferred layout by the town. So that was the layout that we pursued. We also considered a couple different layout options for hypochlorite, one inside the existing chlorine facility and one outside of the existing building as a new structure with containment. We did a codes review, a structural evaluation of the existing facility, and had a meeting with the director of planning and permits. And as a result of all of those efforts, we determined the best location would be inside the existing chlorine gas facility, or this existing chlorine gas rooms. So that is the layout that was pursued as part of this effort, or what we came to. The new hypochlorite room will be high hazard group H4 storage for corrosive liquids in excess of 500 gallons. Therefore, it does require fire suppression in the room. However, based on our meeting with the building inspector, we do understand that the rest of the facility will not require sprinklering. The rooms do require a 2-hour fire rating between the existing facility and the hypochlorite storage area. The existing CMU block walls do provide that 2-hour fire rating. There are some windows that will need to be replaced to keep it 2-hour fire rating between the facility, but it's just the windows that would need to be replaced. In addition, there'll be some structural modifications, provide new steel overhead roll-up doors, demo and replace some exterior load-bearing wall in order to put in that roll-up door, some containment walls, and a new man door between the rooms. We did an evaluation of the ability for the floor to support the load of the new tank and the curbs and the metering pumps, and found that we believe it will be able to support it without any additional support structures underneath. All right, we also took into or evaluated the new GAC building outside. It'll be pre-engineered metal building with a shallow foundation system. The building design is configured to allow for a future GAC vessel installation. So that's why you see 4 here. The building will include a masonry base wall to keep metal panels out of the snow and protect from maintenance equipment. That was discussed in the design workshop. Then for the hypo facility treatment processes, we're looking at a 1,500 gallon FRP bulk tank. We're looking at a horizontal fiberglass storage tank with a 2.5 foot tall containment curb. The storage tank will be put on 3 foot tall pedestals so it can easily be removed as needed or replaced. We will have a transfer pump that goes to a day tank, and then 2 metering pump skids, duplex metering pump skids, each one with a duty standby going to the 2 different injection locations. In terms of the, and this is a similar slide to the previous one, but discussing the process equipment specifically, we're looking at two sets of 12-foot diameter vessels, GAC vessels, each one capable of holding 40,000 pounds of GAC, and each one supplied with a manifold. So this is where all the valving is occurring for controlling the skids. We'll have flow meters coming off of the effluent line of each treatment vessel to control flow rate coming out of each one for flow balancing. We'll provide flow meters and flow control valves on the backwash lines to control the backwash supply into and out of the vessel, and a connection here for the supplier, the media supplier, to connect to make his slurry when he comes on site to do media deliveries. In terms of the electrical design, the electrical load was evaluated, and it looks like we'll need a minimum service size of 170 amps. That's currently planned to be brought over from the existing water treatment facility into the new GAC facility. And in terms of the instrumentation design, we provided a preliminary IO list to begin to coordinate the IO that would be required to be integrated with the existing system. As part of final design, we would look to have a workshop with Woodward and Curran to go through the best plan for that, knowing that you're also doing some SCADA upgrades. In terms of general control, the GAC feed booster pumps would be controlled to maintain the wet well level. And the GAC units are monitored for both differential pressure and flow from each vessel. There will be GAC flow balancing manually by modulating effluent valves, and the backwash will be throttled through a flow control valve. And the chemical feed systems will be flow paced and trimmed automatically to maintain chlorine residual. All right, getting to the project cost estimate, we're up to $5.865 million total. This includes a contingency for rock excavation based on our understanding about a shallow level of rock. It also includes updated quotes that we got from the equipment suppliers as part of this effort. And we were pretty surprised to see that, the prices had gone up by, over 20% for the GAC equipment and the media from the same vendor now, just as compared to when we did the original study. So we're definitely operating in a very volatile market where prices are going up a lot still right now, and we're a little bit beholden to that reality. Looking at the O&M costs, we have a similar power cost to what we had presented before. One of the design workshop questions that came up was, what is the cost of power that was assumed? So we included all of our assumptions here. And, please feel free to let us know if there's an updated or a better cost of power to use based on your actual negotiated rate. Similar to our previous estimate, labor is assumed to not change as part of this upgrade. Maintenance is 2% of the equipment cost for mechanical equipment. Media replacement assumes virgin media, and then there's a contingency. And so we're looking at a cost of water of about $2.47 per 1,000 gallons. And then for project schedule, we submitted our 25% to the town, like I said, at the beginning of this month. And so we're hoping we get comments back, this week. And if we get a final design notice to proceed this week, this is how the schedule would look. So it's, pending on getting a notice to proceed, we'd be looking at having the final 100% drawings and project manual completed at the end of October, and probably looking at going out to bid in the middle of November. So, any questions?
Yes, Amanda, I thought when we were discussing it before that we were going to be putting in to purchase the vessels. We haven't done that at all, right?
We haven't, so that we would put that as part of our first tasks associated with the 60% design effort. We would prepare pre-procurement documents that you could put out to bid for your GAC vessels in advance.
So that would happen sometime over the summer, Lee.
Mhm. Now, what are we looking at for a completion date? Have we moved that out because of supply problems and everything?
Like construction completion?
Mhm. When
Yeah.
do you think we're going to be up and running?
In the commission meeting. Brenda,
I don't have that updated. We can look into that and let you know.
I think we talked about initially one construction season, and it's only probably partial construction season. So ideally, we would be up and running online before the summer of 2023. That might push a little bit. We'll have to look at that again and update the anticipated construction and completion schedule for that, Lee.
Okay, because I know in our budget for next year, for FY23, we did have the $300,000 cost for the O&M in the budget.
Right.
So it looks like we will not be using that at all. Possibly.
I wouldn't say at all, but potentially only partial, only a portion of that set aside. But we'll get back to you with a better date for that.
All right, so, but you're thinking that we might have to regenerate some of the carbon before the end of June next year?
Oh, I don't think we'll be regenerating any carbon that early. Do you, James? I wouldn't anticipate that.
Okay, no, because that's where the 300,000 was in, the regeneration of the carbon. So
Well,
we
I
might
don't-
be able to put that off and see what's happening.
yeah, I don't think that would be the case.
Yeah, I agree, Tony. That first load of carbon, if we went online in summer, it would not be until the following year that we would be looking at replacing any of that carbon. There are some other minor costs in there for power and I forget what, just incidental. Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So there's some maintenance costs in terms of sampling and the equipment and a little bit of power, but the main cost of media replacement would not be incurred until the year thereafter.
Okay, so we're going to have at least a couple hundred that we can be dealing with covering some of these other costs. Now, we did go out for that grant. And that grant is substantially lower than the estimated 5.86 million. Is there any update that we could do with that?
So there's that question actually came up during the review that we had a week ago, and I committed to contacting DEP to get an update on that. Historically, in the past, Lee, DEP has been willing to increase costs under the program, but before I commit to that, let me verify with them to get a direct answer from the state.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, one question I did have, because I did call Calgon to discuss some of the GAC. I had met one of the representatives a couple years ago at a fair in Maine. And so I was just curious about the backwash. And because of our manganese problem, they said that we would need quite a bit of backwash. Because I don't know if we'd be able to eliminate most of the manganese before it gets to the GAC. Is that going to be a higher water cost with the excess backwash we'd need because of the manganese? Is that built in here? Because their comments were the manganese clogs the GAC, so you need excess backwash.
I mean, the pilot that we ran took that into consideration. So I don't know if James, if you have any thoughts on that, but my original opinion was that that was taken into account. But
Okay.
let me talk to, let me, run that through James to see if he has any other thoughts on that, being the.
I'm just concerned about the backwash and then where we're disposing of it and the cost of the water produced to make sure that we are still within budget. Because I know this manganese is not going to be going away. Unless someone waves a magic wand someplace. This has been a problem for decades, as you've known.
Yeah, Tony, the best answer I can give you, actually two parts. Part one is we're treating this water after it's been filtered. So if the water's been oxidized and therefore the manganese is in the insoluble manganese dioxide form, it should be mostly removed by your filtration system. And then secondly, as Tony mentioned, we ran the pilot for 6 months under the same design loading conditions and with the same water that we're going to use for the full-scale system. And to my knowledge, we did not have to backwash the system once during that 6-month period.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure whether or not, because I know we've been having a high manganese count at certain portions of the year. I wasn't sure what portion of the year we did this.
Yeah, I would add, could we expect that to change when you scale it up? Is it safe to rely on the benchtop or the pilot so heavily?
Well, the actual loading rate that we used during the pilot, so we had a design empty bed contact time that would give us a specific loading rate. And so we were running it as if you were running the facility continuously at 3 MGD rather than the average, which I think is around 0.9 MGD. So the actual loading of the full scale system will actually be a little bit less than what we ran in the pilot. The only I guess caveat to that is we ran from the end of August through the 3rd week in January. In the event that your manganese issues, if they're breaking through the filter and you're experiencing them in the other 6 months of the year, then the pilot may not be fully representative of the full-scale results. and that would be something that you would need to tell us what period of time and for what duration might we expect higher levels of manganese in the filtered water.
Yeah, when we ran the pilot study, my recollection and my understanding is that the timing was such that we caught it during a kind of peak period during the summer. So yeah, James, you're correct. If there's something that's anticipated to be higher than what we saw, then, you know, we just need a little bit of input from the town on that. And
Jonathan?
all of that's documented in the pilot study report, Jonathan. So if you want to take a look at that again, you can let us know.
Yeah, I can review the manganese numbers for the first half of last summer, which were epic to say the least, but it probably continued into August, I would think.
Yeah, I would agree. They saw the worst of it.
Really, if they start at the end of August and if it was in the beginning of summer when we had the manganese problem?
We had the manganese problem all year long, but yeah, it gets really prevalent June through September.
Okay, so basically, if they were talking the last half of August and through September, that equated to what it was in June, July?
Yeah, we could certainly pull those numbers up easily.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to make sure we do that.
So I have a couple of questions. This is Chris. Amanda, you said that you sent the 25% design to the town for review recently. Was that at the beginning of May?
May 6th, I think.
Okay, and so you're waiting for us to get back, you're waiting for the town to respond to you with comments?
Yeah, we're looking for comments, and then I think the current scope is just the 25% design effort that we've turned in. So then we're also looking for a notice to proceed for final design.
Okay, so you're waiting on us at this point.
Hey,
Okay,
Chris, what we said we would do, and we pulled together a couple of examples, we'll send a comment log to the town so
Okay.
that by chapter you can, indicate any comments, and then we can explain in that log how those comments got addressed and resolved.
okay. And so who has that currently, Brian? Is that,
Yeah,
With
so
you.
Jonathan, Fred and I were gonna meet this week to review and compile comments, and the comment sheet that Tony just referenced, when they send it over, we'll add our comments to that. And we can send that to the board as well. I don't know how you want to handle that, just for any additional comments.
yeah, I think if you guys take first pass at it and just share with us your comments and feedback, and we can at least have an understanding of what you're thinking and if there's anything that might come up on our end. What's the timeline on that, Brian? How soon are you trying to get that accomplished?
I think we're gonna try to hit tomorrow or Thursday. I don't know. We'll talk Fred after this meeting, but we spoke, I think it was Thursday or Friday, that we're gonna meet mid this week to just go over the design and our comments. So sometime this week.
Also, can I just interrupt for a second? There was somebody who's just put in the comments section. The town approved the 3 million capital spend for the GAC. Can the board discuss how the 5.9 million projected cost will be financed? I don't know who wrote that, but somebody did in the comment section.
No, it's a good comment, a good point. I think the main focus for the commission is on that dollar figure. And I think for the grant, if we get a grant increase on the SRF funding, we still need to vote that at town meeting. So we should probably have, if we're trying to hit the same time frame, should probably have an article at special town meeting, whether we use it or not, to address the funding shortfall.
Yeah, so this probably shouldn't have been unexpected in today's climate. But we have just based on what was approved, this is a big shortfall, and every day it's going to be bigger. So this definitely should be a priority for the board and the town to review. Tony, you said you're going to put a call into the state to see where they stand on this type of
Yes, because I'm sure they're experiencing this across the board with projects that they've funded. So I will put a call into the state and get some feedback from them and then report that back to the board.
Do you have
As
any
we-
experience with this currently? I mean, you seeing this in other projects and how
Well-
the state is responding?
My experience in the past with the state is that they, they have been willing to work with communities to address cost increases that come up. Given the current market condition, I'm sure this is a common question. But rather than speak on the state's behalf, I will communicate with the SRF group and then get back to the town with their feedback.
Okay, we might have an issue that we have to take a look at the rate study again. And unfortunately, the two people who worked on it are no longer going to be with us. And can you also send the board this presentation that you just gave us?
Sure.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
And
Just to
before,
note,
and probably before special town meeting, probably want to relook at the numbers again.
I'm sure we will.
So the plan is to actually, as we progress through the various stages of design, is to continue to update the cost estimate. And as we get further in design, it becomes more reliable because of assumptions that we don't have to make as we get more detail. For example, understanding what the subsurface conditions are once the geotechnical program is complete. So some of that contingency that's in this estimate now either will be used or unused.
Correct.
okay, and your estimate for annual maintenance and operations is also higher than we have budgeted.
Yeah, the cost for media went up quite a bit as well. So now we're looking at $2.25 a pound based on the latest quote from Calgon. That's turnkey, so that's with their labor to come on site and help with the, replacement, and then to also haul away the spent media and dispose of it or regenerate it. But
And correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, but I think this estimate assumes virgin carbon to be replaced. And that
That's right.
we've talked in the past about using regenerated carbon. So that cost, once we talk to Calgon again, can be adjusted. We can show both virgin and regenerated media in this total annual O&M cost spreadsheet. So that's subject to change as well.
Yes, well, talking to Calgon, they said that our media is going to be going to Tonawanda. And with the increase in fuel costs, I don't know how that's going to affect the bottom line.
Yeah, but I guess the point is that we'll look into that and then present the options of both virgin and regenerated carbon.
When in one of these milestones, will we see a rendering or an elevation of what the building is projected to look like?
yeah, that'll be part of final design. We use Revit software. So all of the models are done in 3D, and it'll include 3D images. And we can also include like a 3D model, like a 3D PDF that you can scroll around in if you want as part of our deliverable.
So as we get through the design process, Amanda, I would imagine we can try to generate some initial depictions, so at least the board can get a sense of what this looks like.
Yeah, and we did present some elevations for the building as part of the design workshop. Chris, I can send you that presentation if you want to see what those elevations look like.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mhm.
I might want to suggest that if we're going to proceed with Tetra Tech doing going past their 25%. That we get something in writing and have it signed by the board members.
So what I propose we do is to put together the remaining budget for the completion of design. And then Brenda, I can pass that along to you and you can share it with the board, and then we'll just take your lead in terms of how you want to proceed.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yep. I agree. There's another question in the box from Mike Dick from Capital Budget. Are there any concerns for Conservation Commission review for the new building? Thinking about the timeline to include notice of intent or request for determination.
So.
Would this, so
Go ahead. Go ahead.
As it
Steve.
would this trigger the conservation issue since it's near the water?
Well, it definitely will. And we've had experience working with the Concom in town on other projects. So the intent for all of the permitting is to start early. So once we start to develop the initial set of plans, as we get into the 60% design stage, we will we'll sit down with the boards informally to start the discussion. And Mark, who's on the call, has been through the process. He knows Charlotte and the other members fairly well. So it will, in fact, trigger an action from the Concom, and we will start that discussion early in the process with them. Anything else, Mark, you want to add to that?
No, yeah, I think you covered it perfectly.
Okay.
That was a good question. Thank you, Mike. Anything else for the folks?
Yes, I was able to just pull up the iron and manganese numbers for the missing months, and we're right. The highest numbers were in August and September. So the previous months, May, June, July, they were 50 to 60% lower. And as far as I'm aware, that was the worst year we've ever had for those.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, well, thank you. So we'll be in touch. Any other questions, please let us know. And Brian will send you that comment log so you can work on that with Fred and Jonathan and whoever else might be involved.
Great, thanks.
Thank you all for attending
Thanks,
today.
everyone.
Okay,
All right,
thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Jack. Thank you. So I have a hard stop at 12. I got to kind of continue on my day. So Lee, what do you want to?
Well, I mean, let's just keep going because I don't think it's too.
So we'll just start with the Elms
Yeah.
Meadow testing.
Yeah, so we, the last testing we did was on Wednesday, May 18th. And as the board voted in last month's meeting, and in lieu of testing for Elms Meadow, we tested a storm drain outfall in the area. And I don't have those results yet, but they could come in it could be another week or two, could be any day, but as soon as I have them, I will distribute them to the board.
Okay, then we can just continue this into the next meeting to see what happens.
Great.
Yep, so right now, the average testing for Elms Meadow is 18.4, and the average for here at Lily Pond is 7.2.
What was the Elms Meadow, Jonathan?
18.4,
Okay,
And the pond is 7.2.
correct.
so just what's the history been in terms of conversation on how to correct this and get this back online? I know that there was some language in the warrant and there was potentially some money being allocated for an additional GAC system there, but is that an active conversation? Other than testing, what are we doing to get that well field back online?
Well, if people would like me to speak for the group, as far as I can tell, the consensus is that there is not much of a conversation. There's not much of a plan. It's not economically feasible. Please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the group.
That's a correct statement. That's how it was left with Jason. He did an analysis of what it would cost to design some sort of filtration system, dealing with backwash and so forth. I was under the impression the board decided that it wasn't cost effective.
Well, we were
Based on
still
the payback.
looking, yeah, we were still looking to see whether or not we can discontinue any of the dumping that's going on in the site. And we have Josh Kimball, the natural resource officer from the police, who is working down there to see if we can catch any of the people dumping. Because I know there is the question of the pesticides and herbicides used in the lawns and trees in the area. And they do not contain PFAS, but unfortunately, the containers that they are shipped in has PFAS and it leaches into the herbicides and pesticides, and that could be a part of our PFAS problem. So if we can ever get the well field taken care of, Jason spent 2 years with cameras down there and basically found no one. So we're hoping the police might have a better contact. And
Brian,
if
what do
we
you
can
think?
get it cleaned up,
Brian, do you
We
think
might-
is there a operational or infrastructure upgrade that can be done that should be done?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Lee and I have talked about this in the past, and I think probably with the board. I mean, the only, you can rely on people to go out and inspect and enforce, and that's just, those are really just spot checks, and they're not really effective in the long term. The only really effective measure is to put a fence around the entire perimeter of the field. And that's done at water resource areas across the state, a 6 or an 8 foot black chain vinyl fence.
But you evaluated the idea of a filtration system? And are you-
Yeah. So on that, you're producing 100,000 gallons a day. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the amount of the capital cost to do a GAC system and then the operational cost, I think it was several years on the rate of return. And I think I'll take a look at those numbers again and get the actuals, but it wasn't feasible as far as the economics goes.
yeah, well, basically, since we insulated the well field 6 or 7 years ago, we were producing 20% of the water at 60% of the cost. So we were netting $40,000 a year, which we were putting against the sludge costs from the plant. So, this is one thing to think about, that we just lost that 40,000, but that's neither here nor there. But the whole thing is the area. We have gone to CPC twice to ask them for assistance. We were going to have goats come in to get rid of invasives, put up a 3-rail fence around it, and hope, that the area would look nice instead of looking like whatever with an 8-foot chain link fence. Because that area is up and coming, and you presume that people would want to have an area that would attract birds, butterflies, and bees, because people are interested in natural pollinators. That's the big discussion going on in town with the EcoFest people. But we
So
haven't been successful.
Is there any documentation or analysis or quotes or anything related to the idea of putting a filtration system in there?
Well, we had the Tetra Tech did the pilot study for the 180,000, and they came up with the numbers.
Okay, all right, I'll dig that up and look at it myself. I just don't like the idea of just having abandoned infrastructure there. So I don't think it
I
should
know
be
none of
something
us
we all
do.
just, we shouldn't just forget about it and let the weeds grow and never think about it again. So probably not a discussion for this meeting, but that's my thought.
Well, I'd still like to get, the town behind us, the schools, and we have schools, we have garden clubs, we have Boy Scouts, and you'd think that we'd be able to get some of them behind us in making that into a nice garden spot, because it's right in the center of town. We even had Norfolk County in for a week cleaning it up. But
Okay.
unless we can, I was going to ask the new communications person to work with us, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him because he's still living in North Carolina and working remotely, trying to move up here. So hopefully maybe next week we can possibly do something.
Jonathan, is that facility still being checked and visited and the equipment being maintained as it should?
We go there a few days a month for the testing. We can go there more frequently than that.
All right, well, if we're not, I mean, we shouldn't abandon that building and all the infrastructure that's there. And it's under contract to be maintained, and we need to understand what's in there that needs continuous preventive maintenance. And if we do end up getting this online at some point, or when we get this back online in the future, that equipment needs to be working. So we can't forget that it's there and needs to be maintained.
Okay, one other little wrinkle we have here, you know, all the bonds that we're still paying off from what we started 30 years ago. One of the bonds is for the revitalization of the well field and the plant that was, or the pumping station that was built, and that's not going to be paid off until 2032. So that's something to think about in this whole mess. Okay, any other questions with this?
Hey, Chris, just a quick note,
Yeah.
as far as contamination, based on what I've been seeing in the seminars and the information I'm reading, it's very difficult to identify the source unless you get the smoking gun. For example, a fire department spraying foam. Unless you can do groundwater modeling, sort of like trying to track the source of influence, I don't know many utilities that look at grass clippings or landscaping. They're looking at other sources. And another study has proven it's also airborne. It can be dropped out based on wind studies. It's extremely difficult to track the source without extensive, again, groundwater modeling engineering to try to identify areas of influence. So just a note, it's really a tough one.
Yeah.
So, I'd be happy to provide more information to you if you're interested. More
Yeah, for sure.
technical reports.
Yeah, it'd be helpful. We can touch base on that. And I understand it's a challenge. It wouldn't be have shut down for a year and a half now if it wasn't a challenge, but
Right.
a lot of what we do is challenging.
Yeah, no, but looking at the test results, it seems that the highest test results came in when we did our test anywhere from November through mid-January, rather than the other 3 times of the year. Is that correct, Jonathan? That we were looking at a test result over 20 in that time period between November and January?
Well, it's only, it's been about 2 years now. It started at the end of June of 2020 when we first started testing it. I would say the highest number we had was in January, but we had, that was a 25. Every other number has been under 20. We had a couple 18s and 19s in the first quarter of the year. So that'd be like February, March, April. And we had another 18, 19 in September of 20. So we had one really high number in January, and then the rest of them are kind of floating around 17, 18.
Yeah, you just wonder whether or not there's something that's leaching from what's being dumped, and by the time the groundwater reaches the wells. But, hey, that's my observation.
I can share, I have a spreadsheet here of, detailing every result and the date of the test. So I believe I've shared it before. I can reshare it again, certainly.
That'd be good for Chris to have that.
Yes. And as far as, the maintenance of it and whatnot, maybe it's needless to say, but when we do go there, we are running it for 2 days straight to waste. And,
Okay.
but we can be there more often and continue the upkeep for sure.
Okay, and then we'll just keep an eye on what's happening, whether or not we can find anyone who is dumping whatever, because lawn companies might be dumping other stuff. And I understand now, Steve, you have to leave.
Yep, and one more minute.
Okay. Anything on the RFP? Have we seen anything?
I reviewed it on my own, just kind of did some little sticky tabs. I think we just need to kind of review it as a group and kind of just put it together for Michelle and Brian.
Yeah, so I sent the emails from back in 2014 when we went through this process before, and just quickly, it was done executive session with the board. Obviously, Woodard wasn't involved with that, but it was executive session, kind of went through the RFP, read the whole thing, talked about edits, talked about suggestions, drafted it accordingly, and then we put it out in the street. We got the RFQs. There was a selection committee, which comprised of the commissioners and also a person from advisory, a person from capital budget, one select board, and myself on kind of the review and grading of the RFQs. So that's it. All starts with, maybe you should probably schedule a executive session. Hopefully we can do it maybe in person, because it's easier if I have the laptop and the projector at the conference room, and
Right.
And we kind of go over it, if everyone's amenable to that.
I agree.
Fine with me.
Yep, so maybe on the next meeting or so, if depends everybody's good, we can meet and do that in executive session in person. Probably make life easier.
Yeah, especially if we're just going through edits and reading through it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's just skip, what were the water connection fees and the water deferrals? Does that need a?
All right, that was about a senior citizen
No,
or.
you got two
Sun-
things.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you got the water deferrals. There was two of them. One of them was for 508 I'm sorry, 508C Beechwood Street,
Right,
Dorothy Blossom.
Mhm.
The total was $52.40. So you guys either gotta vote on it to approve it.
I make a motion to approve the deferral for 508C Beechwood for $52.40.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next one, 211 North Main Street. Marie Higgins. That's a total $340.60.
Any discussion?
Now, why is hers so high?
Because hers is for a full quarter. Miss Blossom didn't get approval for hers until after the second billing, so it's
Oh,
just the
okay.
last two quarterly bills.
Mhm.
And again, this money gets deferred. When the house gets sold,
We get the money back.
you get the
Right.
money back.
I make a motion to approve the deferral for 211 North Main Street for $340.60.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I gotta jump off, folks. I'm sorry, but we'll see you at the next one.
Okay.
Cheers,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Thanks. See ya.
Okay, the water connection fee, that was, someone came in asking about getting a reduced rate for his mother who lives up the street on Lily Pond Lane. She is what, 95? And they decided that she wanted to go off well onto town water.
Correct.
Correct. And we had the discussion before you got on board, Chris, that here she is at 95 and they want to have a reduced rate for a location that could be sold at any time. If we are looking to do any reduced rates for senior citizens, we were discussing whether or not they could be done on deferral rather than just give them a certain rate. And I don't know what legal hoops we have to go through in order to set up a deferral for a connection fee.
Well, John had suggested at the last meeting that they would have to, his suggestion was these people that get their water deferrals have to qualify to get a tax exemption through the assessor's office. So they've qualified for that,
Mhm.
and they give me their certificate every year, and then I'll be, I put it in for them. I don't know how it works when we're talking, whatever amount of money, because this is all part of the billing system when we're doing this.
Mhm.
Whereas when I bill for a connection fee, it's done separately. I mean, I'm sure I could find a way to bill it and put it on the water bill. But I don't know, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to see if it would actually work with the deferral. But John had suggested they needed to qualify for that tax exemption and fill out the appropriate paperwork as if it was a water deferral.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that,
I think
is,
we have to do a little more investigation as to what options we have. Because it just doesn't seem fair to everyone if, well, here are people who are extremely elderly looking to do this, and then their heirs are going to be selling the house. And to not have to worry about the connection fee, because I mean, take a look at sewer. They go on the taxes.
I mean,
What
I'm
would
sure
the-
there's a way I could probably do this, but I just,
Yeah,
unless it's legal to do it, and I don't know who we're supposed to talk to about it, I don't know.
this has never been done before?
no,
No.
we've never had anyone ask. See, because, you take a look at what our connection fees are compared to sewer. I think sewer's up at like 35,000 now. And we're at 13,600. We used to be 10 until recently. So we haven't, needed, no one has come up with this.
And this is the connection fee in question is about $13,000.
That's
13,600.
13,600, yeah.
And
Oh, sorry, Chris.
what's that, Brian?
No, I would just say this is seems like an unusual circumstance that's probably not likely to repeat itself too much because it's an elderly person with a well water. I would say the majority of the town is not on well water. And I wouldn't change anything in your code. If it's a one-off, it appears to be that maybe we should go through, I can ask Pam Fahey to see how many people are exclusively on well water. I would venture that number is really low.
Yeah, I have a list. I've worked with Pam and in the building department as well to come up with some sort of a cohesive list. There isn't that many. The majority that we had on Forest Ave, we had a period of time when everybody's well was failing down there. And we extended our main and got people hooked up to that. But there's very, very few. When her son spoke at one of the meetings, his main concern was the loss of power in town. Because every time we lose power in this section of town, she doesn't have any water.
Right.
So that was, his concern, because she had gone for, well, I don't know, 5-6 days once without any water running. When we
Yeah.
lost power during a storm.
Okay, so the decision in question would be to accept the request for a deferral, not for a waiver of any kind, but for a deferral, just on the connection fee. Is that correct?
Yeah, if it was the type of water deferral like we just did, I would have to put it on the water bill. And then you guys at the end of the fiscal year or towards the end of the fiscal year would defer it. It goes into this accounting thing. And then once the house sells, when she passes or the house sells, the water commission the water department would get their money. I just need to
Okay.
make sure it can work on the billing end If you guys decide to do that.
Or
think, Lee?
it, it just seems so strange that here is this woman who's been living there for quite a long time and she's 95. And the son is asking for this now at this stage of the game. It seems like a very late stage of the game. And my inclination is I hate to set a precedent because other things can happen. You might have a subdivision or something and it's like, well, this person got this. And it's not, yeah, as I said, compared to sewer, it's not a lot of money. I'd prefer if it either could go into a deferral or if we can talk to the treasurer and see if we can set up some type of a tax lien situation.
How would we do that versus the deferral?
Well, this is why we have to talk to the treasurer to find out what is involved in that. I mean, it essentially is in the end the same thing.
Okay,
They're getting the deferral when they sell the house through the water because it's on the bill, but this is not a billed thing. This is separate. This is like, as I said, I hate to keep bringing up sewer. It's a tax lien situation with sewer. With connection. So,
well, so yeah, I mean, I have the same concern about setting a precedent, but I'm also thinking about the reality of this circumstance. So I would be inclined to grant a deferral for this scenario and then address it if it comes up in the future, which, you know,
Yeah.
this exact scenario coming up, if it's never come up before, it's likely to not
Mhm.
repeat itself anytime soon.
you and I are on the same page on this. We're just trying to see which way it works out better for us, how it can work in the billing. Because tax lien and deferral is basically the same thing. Because the money just comes out when that building is sold.
Okay, so Brenda, who answers the question about how to make that connection via deferral?
All right, well, I'm gonna read, let's see, I'm thinking Mary Quill would be the one I'd start with because she's the one who hands out, who gives out the tax exemptions.
Mhm.
And then I guess I would have to speak to the treasurer, Carla.
You'd have
I
to
was
probably
just-
speak to Barry Quill because you have new people in the treasurer's office.
Well, I have Linda's cell phone
Oh, okay, because,
and Linda's still working.
all right, that's good.
So I can reach out to them and see what their thoughts are on it.
Okay,
And report back once I find something else.
Sounds good to me.
okay.
All right. Got it.
Okay, now we're looking at sludge and milfoil. How are we doing with that, Jonathan?
Milfoil is complete and sludge is ongoing. So around the middle of May, the Bourne landfill asked us to take a 2-week break in our removal, which we've done. I was just in touch with them as the meeting was starting, and it sounds like they need another 7 to 10 days or so. And I should get confirmation of that, within a day or two. The new sludge mixer has been deployed and we're using it and it's very effective. We are a little concerned that we'll have to keep revisiting the polymer that we're using based on how the sludge is changing as it becomes thicker from being properly mixed. But I just ordered a new barrel of a new polymer to, take into account for that. We are processing into new sludge bags right now. So we are in the thick of it. We're processing sludge. Removal's almost complete. We'll probably have about 7 to 10 days from now when Bourne gives us the go ahead to continue. We probably have about 5 to 10 days of more removal.
Mhm.
And right now, this morning I received an estimate to install the new polymer system for the next phase of the upgrade. And that particular contractor, the estimate for that installation is about $25,000. That includes redirecting a 4-inch sludge pipe, at like 2 45-degree angles to reach this new polymer system. And then the polymer system it sits on a skid and it needs to be adjusted to the same elevation as the pipe. And so we also need to demo and remove the old polymer system and rewire the electrical. So that's where that 25,000 is adding up there. So a little bit slow, but a bit of progress every week as we continue.
Okay, how
Yeah.
about the roll-offs? Are we starting to use those?
That we will with the new installation of the new.
New pol-
Yes.
Yeah, the challenge is the operating season. What we found is the timing of this is not good. So we ordered this, or Jason ordered a 500-gallon day tank, Lee, but we're finding that the shed out there needs some significant modifications to make that work, removing some of the ceiling. My concern is if you do it that way, you're not going to have a lot of room to repair, make any, to pull the pump out of the day tank and then time is of the essence, right? So we do all that, we can only be down for so long before we need to process sludge. So we're rethinking this, and Brian, we can discuss this as well when I'm on site tomorrow, about ordering a second smaller tank, getting it into the shed makes more sense. But again, time is of the essence. To do it right, you really need to pour a new pad and place a larger shed for a long-term solution.
Mhm.
And we can do all that, but this is the worst time because we're in the thick of things. Like Jonathan said, we're processing sludge and we can't afford to be down very long.
Well,
So
this
this
is our
will-
heavy season.
Yeah, so that's one of the challenges. So it's kind of been, we're trying to figure that out. And I'll update you tomorrow, Brian.
Yeah, the timing challenge is that you'd have to coordinate, multiple contractors to demo and replace the shed. And it's, with the unpredictability of scheduling, these days, it would be very risky to just start that like at this time, but we're going to towards the end of the summer. That's the tentative plan. But as Fred said, if we had getting the smaller day tank would mean that we could use it in the current shed that we have. So that's tentatively the plan right now. So once the new poly system is installed, after we pull the trigger on that, we're going to order the smaller tank. So, the roll off should be in use by the end of the summer.
Okay, question about the smaller tank. Are you sure it's going to be available at the time that you're going to be?
It
ordering it?
is, yes, we're in communication with the vendor and
Okay,
available.
because I know that's the biggest problem in so many of these. Then the next question is, Brenda, how much can we afford?
That's coming out of capital.
Yeah, so there's about
Okay,
something around 200 grand left in that pot, which started at 300. So that's 200,000 to build a new shed and order a tank and install the polymer system. So we think we'll have more than enough money.
That's
Okay.
coming out of expansion of the residuals.
Yeah, we're pretty confident that's much more than enough.
okay.
Is this upgrade only required to do the container system? Or is this required in general?
It's required for the container.
But
And this is
we'll-
something that Jason put in motion.
but we'll work with the bags as well.
Yeah, the bags and the container will be the long solution, using them both.
Okay, so it needs to be done in order to do the container system. Do we sign any type of contract for that container? And I mean, I know we bought some equipment, but we're renting the container, but is there some type of contractual long-term agreement we have to do that?
I just have what was originally signed by Jason for a monthly. If we decided to purchase these, I think they'll give us a certain amount of money back and put it towards the purchase of the roll-off. That
Yeah,
was
so
my understanding.
We're leasing to own. Yes.
Okay, the other question, the milfoil bags, when are we looking maybe in September to be disposing of those?
Yeah, that's a conversation we need to have in depth. We really don't have a plan right now, so I'm searching for input on that.
Okay, I thought that we couldn't remove them until they drained a bit more. And I thought Fred said it takes a couple months.
That's correct. But he's talking in more of what do we do with the content of the bag,
Oh,
I believe. Yeah, so.
so
we're
I
gonna-
mean, we're still working on maybe the same that we did last time.
Right.
Yeah, and then the rule of thumb is the longer you give it, the drier it's gonna be, in theory.
Yes.
I
So
mean,
we
could
have
do it-
to have that
But-
discussion.
But
Yeah, we could do it today, but if we wait until the end of
Oh,
summer,
yeah.
it should be drier.
Yeah.
if I understand though, the contents of the bags are different than the last time. So this is more mud than it is vegetation.
I need to kind of confirm that. Hard for me to say, to be honest. But I am still in touch with the folks who did it. They're going to be returning for a debrief. I didn't get to see them face to face, so that's part of the conversation we'll be having.
Well, I
Okay,
don't
so-
know. There
It's
wasn't very
still-
much vegetation in the last pile.
Right.
Okay, so what are the options? I mean,
Well,
what
Chris,
is,
if you go down to Pine Ridge Road and you look at the pile, that's what it was.
but I think that was only one bag, correct?
That was one bag, yeah.
So we
So I
have
don't
3
know,
bags now.
we're in discussion with that.
So you get a dump truck and a loader and you take all 3
Yeah, well,
bags
this is
and
it, because
load
we
it
have
onto
the
a truck?
loader and we borrowed Wayne's dump truck.
Okay, so is there, I
We
mean,
ident-
what's
we
an
identif-
alternative, Fred?
We identify sites, Chris, and then we will
Yeah.
load trucks and bring it to those sites. So the key is to identify the sites that'll accept it.
See, and I happen to have a dump truck operator living in my house, so we didn't have to pay for personnel for that.
Okay.
So we're gonna see what happens when it gets closer and where we have space. And then we're also, I think, talking to the town to see if there's any space at the DPW.
I think that's a negative already.
Is it really?
Yes.
Brian, have you found any locations in town?
Sorry, I had to step away for one moment. What subject are we talking about right now?
We're talking about the milfoil in the bags.
Material.
Yeah, there's no place in town to dispose of that.
So we'll continue discussion on that.
Okay,
Okay, next is the Beechwood water main replacement.
So Amory Engineers has been hired to do the contract plans and specification. We should be receiving them this week for review. We'll send those around. And we'll go do the comments if we have any, and then we'll go to bid if there are, if we have final bid documents ready. Likely, we're looking at end of June, probably. Factor in about 6 weeks for bidding and receiving proposals. So looking at end of summer, early fall for award and construction.
so it's only Beechwood Street?
It's only Beechwood from Aaron, from the dam to King Street.
And we have the pipe already.
On order.
Okay,
I believe the pipe is coming in August. Is that right, Brenda?
I have the guy checking on it now with the whoever he ordered it from. They were saying the end of July, beginning of August.
So timing works out.
okay, perfect. Surrey Street paving, we don't have to worry about anything on that in our current fiscal year budget.
Well, I will mention that the water main, as it turns out, is a transite main, asbestos concrete, and it it runs directly underneath the curb line of the new sidewalk, which poses some challenges on the new catch basins that are designed there. So I'm meeting Concom and the design engineer in an hour out there just to go over. But basically, I think my opinion is, I think we just shifted the catch basins to underneath the sidewalk, and we'll have some low profile drop inlets to go to those. Obviously, we don't have the money to replace that main or do anything with it, and we don't want to disturb it in any way because it can be brittle if disturbed.
Okay, but we might have some other work that is requires some valves or something. No?
No, there's no water main work or any water work out there currently. If that's
Okay.
just based on our design changes, I'll let you know, but I don't anticipate. I think we just stay away from that as much as possible.
Please.
Hmm?
Please,
Sorry.
just please stay away from the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are they doing with the sidewalk there? Because I see there's still quite a bit of ledge.
Yeah, that was anticipated. You could see it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about the design, but we had to go through some design revisions. It's going to be a permeable pavement required by Concom, and we're going to have like a kind of a collection infiltration system underneath the sidewalk for the entire length of it. So it's not just grading it, it's going down 28 inches and building up the substrate with like a collection pipe. So they have to do a little more ledge removal, and is what it is. But it's coming along.
Well, I drive down there quite a bit and it looks very interesting with the, let's say, rock semi-wall and the wood chips and the trees. It seems a little precarious.
So that
Right
is,
along the edge.
that's one of the things I'm meeting about with the Concom agent this afternoon. So we're going to build some sort of wall in that area to hold back that hedgerow, and
Good luck with that.
field
Okay.
engineering.
And now our favorite, 508. Chief Justice Cushing. I noticed they put up, what is it, 3 little bushes, put some soil down, built up a little soil berm and put up 3 little bushes. So is that considered finished now? And what's happening with the cease and desist order that they totally ignored? And when are they going before ZBA? We haven't heard that question answered.
So if you, I have no update on that if you're asking me. Is that was in the building departments? John Allen was.
John sent him he sent him the cease and desist order in March. They have been stalling on the ZBA because they want to change their permit from that building that is the illegal auto repair garage. It was only supposed to be for storage only. So I can't understand how anyone is allowing that building to be where it is. You keep hearing people saying, well, gee whiz, there was the gas station there, but the gas station was, if you're looking at the property over to the right, what, 200 feet maybe? So it wasn't directly impacting Peppermint Brook. So goodness knows what's happening.
Yeah,
We
so
were
I'd
supposed to be
recommend
getting
that if we could
as-built.
continue this on the next agenda and invite John Hallen.
Mhm.
I'm sure he'll because really permitting and inspections is under his.
But no, it's waiting to go before ZBA. We were supposed to be giving comments to ZBA before that property went before them, and they keep extending. And they said that they couldn't give us as-built until after they finished. Now it looks like they put up the 3 bushes. So are we going to be getting as-built? Goodness knows. And are we going to be getting anything before the next ZBA meeting? That's still up in the air.
Yeah, I think zoning also is under his purview of design, permitting, and inspection. So I think let's invite John to the next meeting. I mean, I'll
Well-
talk to him in the interim.
I'm just concerned, what's Concom doing? Because this is, within the stormwater zone. It's illegal
It's-
under that.
It's
So
it's
no
all
one's
under
doing
the
anything.
umbrella of John Helens.
All under the umbrella, yeah, but I'm saying this has been going on for over 2 years. With, everybody's like, well, gee whiz, it's only the water supply.
I haven't said that.
Everyone else has. Okay,
Thank
so we're
you.
just waiting on this. Meeting note approval. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting notes of the last meeting? Chris,
Yeah, I'll make that motion to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting.
I second.
All in
All in
favor?
fa- Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any comments from anyone else? Anything? Everything is looking good. We don't have any issues coming up that we should know about? No? Good.
Hoping for a
And
little more
we'll,
rain.
pardon?
Hoping for a little more rain, that's all.
Yeah, we need some
Yeah,
rain.
is it supposed to rain tomorrow? I think. Possibly. Of course, I'm going to New Hampshire, so it's gonna rain now.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Appreciate your time.
I make a motion to adjourn at, what time is it now? 12:31?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thanks,
you,
take
Fred.
care.
All right, bye.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of the month.